Hello everybody, and welcome to my video that's going to be totally dedicated to talking about album artwork and album packages. I think that the music is obviously the most important part when it comes to putting out an album or a record or whatever you want to call a set of songs that are all belong together in one sort of package. But I think that the album artwork is really important too, and so for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be showing and talking about my favorite album artwork and packaging that happened for my albums throughout the decade. So this is another one of my top 12 albums of the decade, though I'm not going to do 12, but I'm making this video as a companion video, I guess, for those videos. And so I want to start off right away, though, by saying I am by no means an art expert, but I do enjoy talking about it and discussing it, which is the whole point of this anyway. So this video is going to be structured sort of in three parts. First, we're going to be talking about the just sort of random albums that I enjoyed, but that I don't think are the best album artworks of the decade. Second, we're going to be talking about sort of album packaging and different ways that people were creative with releasing their albums that made it kind of special. And then third and lastly, we're going to be talking about my 5 favorite album designs, packages, album artworks, things like that, my 5 favorite of the decade. First thing we're going to talk about is Skindred's album Big Tings, which, if you're unfamiliar with them, they're sort of like a metal band that mixes a lot of hip-hop and sort of reggae or Rastafarian influence with them. Hence the Big Tings rather than Big Things. That's what that's supposed to mean. So we just have plain white background with a cat. Catman here. Man's body with a cat photoshopped in. I just like it. I think it's kind of funny. I think that it doesn't tell you very much about what the album sounds like, but most of these albums don't really do that. It's kind of neat when it does, but in this case, it's just kind of a cool picture. The back is just the same thing, but kind of from the back. And one of the things I do like about it a lot is the high resolution, the high quality of these photos. If my camera will focus. It's very high resolution imaging. And that you can tell even more by the disc here. It's just like a super high resolution photo of fur. It might be a photo. I don't know if it's like a 3D rendering of fur or what, but I like it. I think it's pretty cool. And so that's just a nice example of a simple album artwork style that I do enjoy and I think is kind of neat, nice to mention. So next up we have the Diablo Swing Orchestra, and this is their 3rd album, I believe, but only their 2nd of the decade. They had one album come out after this, and I believe they're working on new music now. But anyway, I like this overall presentation. It feels very Series of Unfortunate Events to me. It has kind of like a childish fairy tale aspect to it, more so than just having children in it. But if you look at these sort of colors represented here, we have some purples, reds, an orange, green. The snake up here is orange, orangish red. And these kind of are the colors that are repeated throughout the whole thing. I really like the design on the back of the numbering, the track numbers. It's a really cool idea to do it this way, and I like how the colors are just all mixed up, and it looks almost unorganized, which is kind of neat. It's very chaotic, which is how their music sounds. But if we open it up here, and let me zoom out just a little bit, you can see I like the disc. We return to the sort of green color from the outside, but inside we've primarily got the orange and the blue, and then it's kind of, mixed around with some different designs. One thing I do like too that's neat and I always appreciate is the sort of intentional, they make it intentionally look like it's sort of old and been weathered and worn. That's not real, that's just something that was part of the design. But I enjoy that kind of stuff. And if we look at the art book here, the insert, you'll see these colors all repeated again throughout. And I believe each page of the book is a different song. And so we have all these shapes that, of course, mean things and have deep meanings, I assume. And then the different colors representing different things, the band picture in the middle. I just love the layout of all of this. It's very chaotic, but also very artistic, and lots of solid lines, very clear colors, kind kind of Art Deco-y. I really enjoy this style a lot, so I wanted to feature that. Diablo Swing Orchestra's album Pandora's Pinata. So moving forward, here's a Seven Dust album that I like purely because of the color choice. I think that the design is very cool. I like the sort of wolf and bird fighting aspect to it. But mainly it's just the colors. I love the combination of yellow and orange and blue. And that color scheme is repeated throughout the whole thing. The disc on this one, very cool rendition from the front, but just using yellow, and then sort of just a nice clean silver for the text. Looks very good. Booklet is much of the same, but I just wanted to kind of throw this one out there and say I like the color scheme of that one. Here we have Nephew's album Hjertestarter, and the reason I like this is because of this photo on the front. This is a very cool way to like lay out a whole album, basing it solely off of one idea and one photo, not necessarily one photo, but one photo shoot that they had. It's a very high resolution photo of the band just jumping into the ocean. And this band is from Denmark, so I assume they're jumping into the ocean by Denmark? I don't know. Very cool, again, with the different size fonts, making it look a little chaotic, but almost like the periodic table of elements, with how everything is sort of structured and then the lines in between. Very cool way to lay out text. One really neat thing about this album is very few professional CDs that I have ever seen use the black disc, and Nephew is one of the bands that does that. Very simple with sort of the heart logo and then just the red and the white, and then the booklet itself is very similar in the way it's laid out. Good graphic design work here in terms of how everything is laid out with extra accent lines and things like that. And then just band photos, all in the same photo shoot, I assume. Somewhere in here there's a cool photo of them, yeah, in this sort of like cave looking out at the ocean with their instruments. Very neat. Very high resolution photos, which I know I've said that a couple times now, but I just love the way these photos work. Very high contrast, very high resolution photography is very cool, and I love how this is definitely the theme of the album. These on the ocean with the black outfits, and it works really well together. Here we have Danielle Nicole's album Wolf Den, and so this is a blues album that has a really cool cover, and then everything else about it is very stereotypical blues. If I just saw this, I would say that's a blues album. She's a bass player, so she's holding her bass, which I appreciate. But the thing that I love most about this is just the simplicity of this design and then the colors. It might be hard to see on here, but this blue color is the same blue color that's mixed in with the whole design here, and it's actually the same color as in this wolf den. It might be a little bit lighter, but it's not white. The only white on this whole image is the inside of the eyes. And so if we open it up and look at the disc, you'll see it's the same elements, but a little bit different. The booklet is pretty much very stereotypical, standard, very, very plain. But one thing I want to point out here, the recording studio that I used to work at, we did lots of disc duplication, and I learned about the differences in discs and what kind of image you could print on different types of surface and things, because a lot of discs are made with different surfaces and different quality inks do different things with different quality discs. And so if you look at this image here, hopefully you'll be able to tell when the camera focuses, very clean lines, very nice and clean. But if we open it up and look at the disc, those lines are clean from afar, but when you get in there, it's almost like a patchwork design. And that has to do with the quality of the disc and just the way that the printer worked on this specific disc. So I'm willing to guess that they had the discs manufactured at a different place. Well, maybe not necessarily, but the discs are printed from a different source than the books, which is the case in all CD duplication buildings. But anyway, I love this design. And when I sat down to make my top 5 pieces of album artwork or album packaging packages for the decade, this was originally in my top 5, but it kind of got moved out by some other cool things that I was looking at and debating over. But this was going to be in there because I just love this design so much. The choice to have her name be so dark compared to the background is such an interesting choice, and I think works really nicely with the overall presentation of that. This looks similar in color to the ends of the spirals, even though the spirals I'm assuming are the same color. They just sort of fade out when they get thinner. Yeah, I don't know, it's just a neat design choice. So next we have an album that was going to be on my top 5 as well, but didn't quite make it because of how cool everything else is. This is Pendulum's album Immersion from way back in 2010. And the whole thing is this sort of almost like futuristic, high-resolution, high-quality. It almost looks like computer-generated imagery, and I'm sure that's how the things were all put together. I need more light up here. I guess here I'll zoom in. That'll make things easier. But we have super high resolution, and it's kind of tough to tell when you're looking because they have this coral, and from farther away you might not notice. But all these here are all people, sort of stretching out, wearing different clothes and stuff. Reaching out towards the man and woman in the middle. We've got a whale down here. Very cool. It almost has like a futuristic look to it, which is neat because this is an awesome electronic album. And that theme carries out through all of the artwork. I'm not sure this one in particular connects. Yeah, I don't think so in terms of the front connecting to the back. But the booklet, much the same stuff. It folds out. Here, I'll show you. It folds out into a fourfold, and it's just the same sort of style of high contrast. It's all shiny, glossy paper. Works really nice. The disc is very cool too, and at first I wasn't sure if I liked it a lot or not, but then I grew to like it more. It's all these cool bubbles, and it almost feels like rain or something, but then we got a jellyfish down here to kind of tie it all together, and then obviously the light rays coming from above with the Pendulum logo. Very cool, very simple, just actually not simple, now that I say that. I guess it's simple in the fact that it's all one concept, but it isn't simple at all. It's very complex. So there's Pendulum Immersion. Now here we have 2 albums that I wanted to talk about. Very cool. These are the 2 Musilek albums that came out this decade. I don't think he released other albums this decade, but I could be wrong. These are the only 2 Musilek albums I have been able to find. This is their more recent one, and this album is cool because this was his last album, and he knew it was going to be his last album when he was making it. So this sort of theme of the train leaving the station is a theme that runs through the music, and it's a neat way the music ties in with the artwork. The last song on the album is sort of a train leaving a station sound effect fading into the song, and the song just kind of like keeps going and going and going. And it's an instrumental, and I remember when I listened to it for the first time, I got the distinct impression that the artist didn't want the song to end. He wanted it to just keep going and droning on, and with the sound of the train in there, it really made it feel almost sad, like very bittersweet. This style of artwork, very almost military-esque, like World War II propaganda sort of style of artwork. And I don't know if that's proper terminology or not, but that's what it reminds me of looking at it. And Art Deco-y kind of, I guess, too. But again, really cool with lines and borders. I love stuff like that. The disc is very cool. Some aspect of a train. I believe this is something to do with the train. I don't know. And then the artwork in here is all very similar, obviously, to the artwork on the outside. Just different photos of the band, or of the guy. Here his name is Der Graf, I believe. Some more sort of Art Deco style, black and white stuff in here, mixed with photography. Very cool stuff. Really neat. And then their album that they released right before that, same designer, same artist. We have Lichter der Stadt. That one was Gipfelströmer. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Gipfelströmer. and this is Lichter der Stadt. And this is the same sort of general style of art, but with one really cool twist to it. I like the disc with the blue circle on the outside. But the cool twist here is that in this piece of artwork, all the tracks' names are incorporated in this cityscape. So we have, there's words there. Anywhere you see a word in here, hers work is the one that sticks out the most. Or Kopekind, I think that is. Oh, Kopfkino, something like that. Those are all names for songs. Well, I don't see Kopfkino. Maybe now I look like an idiot. But anyway, there's song names back here. And then also when you open it up and you remove the disc, you see more in this image here with this building and then just more of the song titles in there. So just like a really cool way to sort of incorporate it all. Both of these albums are really cool, and I really enjoy having both of them in my collection. German industrial sort of music there. Very beautiful music. So now we're getting into sort of some of the more special stuff that I was, again, thinking about being in my top 5. First here we have Gin Wigmore's album Blood to Bone. And this is, Gin Wigmore released 3 albums this decade, and this is my least favorite one. But I love the artwork. And I think this photo is so cool for a few reasons, but the first thing that I notice when I look at this photo is that the hands are the most present thing, the thing I feel like you look at almost first, but they are not in focus. Her face is what's in focus. And that's such a cool aspect to this album artwork. And then to just have simply Gin Wigmore Blood to Bone on here. On the back, just a simple black and white photo with the song titles. I don't actually care for the way this looks, and I do not like the fact that it has doesn't have numbers next to them. I prefer to have the numbers, but all very big text for everything else, which is pretty different for stuff. And then to have the barcode way up here is a little different. White disc with black text, very simple, very cool. Here's just an image of hands, obviously taken from the same photo shoot. I assume those are Gin Wigmore's hands. And one really awesome thing that I love about this is this curve right here to the packaging. It helps you get it out and in way more. So now I got to zoom out here. Whoops. Sorry, I've got my camera on a longer stand. So when you take this out and you open it, you see a horse here on some background, and then you unfold this to reveal a poster of her, which I don't care for this poster very much at all. It looks very wet. The light they had shining on it, I don't know what the heck was going on. Her tongue looks wet, which is kind of weird and gross to me. And this looks, I don't know if she was in water or what when they did this. Probably for a music video, I assume. But I don't care for that. And then you flip it over and her face is up here again. Just high quality, same thing as on the album. But I can show you that photo a little closer. Just a really cool packaging. I love the fact that it's black overall, and black and white photography has become sort of an increasing interest of mine this last year. And so really cool to see it done in such a neat way like this. High resolution photo, and again, the fact that her hands are not in focus is very cool. So that's Gin Wigmore Blood to Bone. Here we have another example of people, a photo, hello photo, on the front. This is Jakob Dylan's album, Women and Country. I just like the way that this looks. It really gives the feeling of the album. There's clouds in the background, so it doesn't give the feeling of like a bright sunny day. It's cloudy, it's a little overcast. In terms of a photo, I love this. You don't see the head of the horse, but you can tell they're on a horse. The woman on the back with a gun across her shoulder, very cool aspect. The fact that you can see the rope here, very neat. Gives, again, another, this women and country. It gives it a sense of it. With the rope, just having the rope there gives it a bit of a country feel. And then the fact that you do not see the woman's face. Such an awesome photographic sort of like I don't want to say a trick, but like automatically there's an air of mystery to it. He's looking right at you, but you want to know what's going on in this situation. Why are they out there? Awesome photo that makes you ask questions. If we go to the back here, another incredible photo. I assume that's Jakob Dylan, but you don't see his face. And hiding a face is always a really intriguing thing to do. It automatically makes the person looking at the photo or whatever aspect of art that it is ask a question. Seems mysterious. We go to the inside. Very simple Columbia disc. Looks like the inside label kind of an old Columbia record or vinyl. This is just another photo of the same horse with the woman on it from the front. And you just see a bit of leg and then the dress she's wearing. Very incredible photo. Well, not this one as much as the front, but very cool to have that as a design for the inside. Then if we look at the book, a few more photos. Very simple with the lyrics. Just a navy blue on the sort of fabric-y almost paper bag fabric feeling paper. Not glossy paper. Again, I don't know what these proper terms. And I should say too, I've never really filmed a video like this, so I don't know if the lighting is good at all for this. But if I find a shiny album, you can see in the reflection here, I've got one light there and one white light there. So, I don't know. Anyway, that's Jakob Dylan, Women in Country. Now here's BT, These Hopeful Machines. And actually, I should have... You know what? I'm going to go get it. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I had forgotten that I actually have 3 different versions of this album. Purchased intentionally. But we have These Hopeful Machines, These Humble Machines, and These Reimagined Machines. And so, the first album to come out was this one. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, which is why I bought all 3 versions of it. But basically we have this, the regular edition, in a CD that is a case I've only had a few times bands release albums in this kind of a case. To open it, you push here and then open. But we'll get to that in a second. After this album came out, this is an electronic album full of these songs, split onto 2 discs because the songs are so long, couldn't fit all of these onto one disc. So you have the first disc here, second disc here. And the reason I bought this disc, These Humble Machines, it's those same songs all on one disc. The songs are edited down so that they're not as long. So this is just very simple artwork here. Just a plain white disc with a few lines on the side here. I don't know if you can even tell. A few lines on the side there. And then the album artwork here, I think, yeah, it's similar to the other one, so I'll show you that one. I think it might even be the same thing with some different words. But then we have these Reimagined Machines, which is this same album, but just remixes of those songs. And this, again, is also a 2-disc set, but it's in a regular CD, this case this time, that flips open. Plain white. The disc, plain white with sort of horizontal lines that, as I feel it, they stick out a little bit. And then this, just a very simple book explaining who did what on the remixes. But these are just sort of additional products that he made to go along with these Hopeful Machines. And I mentioned earlier on that Nephew album. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this is a portrait of BT, this artist. And it's awesome because you look at this and you think, oh, that's kind of cool. Look at the back, very simple, black with some different colors of lines here. Then we open it up and we look at this disc. It's the inversion of this disc. Black with white lines, and this is white with the sort of, if you can tell there, lines there. But there's 2 discs in here, and they are black discs. Again, that's very cool. These are this album and the Nephew Starter album are the only 2 professionally produced albums that I have that use the black discs. I mean, you can go to Staples and buy 100 of them to burn for yourself, but these are professionally made. Very cool. One problem with this kind of CD case is that it's tougher to get this out of here. It goes up rather than out the side, which you would with a normal CD case. But then we have the booklet for this, which is really cool. So you look at the front, and it's a nice painting of BT. But then as we unfold this thing, you realize that there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. Kid with some headphones looking down. Here, I'll give you a little bit more light. And then we get back down to BT. Very cool, very long. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections, 6 panels. And then on the back is just some different information about the album. Kind of cool and put together with some lyrics into the tree. Very neat. But I just love this. I love the way that... Oop, I folded that wrong, but well, I'll fix that later. Anyway, so that's BT, these hopeful machines, these humble machines, and these reimagined machines. And then for the last disc we have in this section of the video, this is another one that was close to making it on my list of top 5 favorite artwork or album presentations. Soilworks The Ride Majestic. And all the artwork on this is based around this piece of art. I don't know if this is a photo or a painting that the band found that they enjoyed. I don't know if the person who made this piece of art made it for the band. I'm not sure. But if we look at the front here, you just see all these very detailed, but sort of not a lot of specifying details on them, but it's a very detailed painting. I assume it's a painting or pencil drawing maybe of all these people in this sort of like tornado. And then the classic band logo. Let me zoom out a little bit here. And then you can see on the back, it continues. And then if we open it, you can see that it's one piece of art that extends. Very intriguing what's happening here. Not really super indicative of the music, but still really interesting. Inside, I like typical Soilwork style with the Soilwork logo. And then we have just a very typical looking Soilwork disc. Again, the artwork continues in here with that painting or a more sort of theme of that. And then a blank panel here, which I feel is really cool. But just a really cool way to use one piece of art and kind of base everything off of it. The booklet in here, if I remember correctly, sort of more variations on what we just saw. Band photo, of course. And just black and yellow or gold writing. Very cool. A lot of glares I'm seeing on stuff, which I was trying to avoid that, but hopefully you guys can tell what's going on. All right, so now we are going to talk about some cool album packages. And this is kind of a combination of what we just did, plus albums that did a little bit extra, went the further step to make themselves special. And here we have AWOL Nation's debut album, self-titled. Love this album. Love the artwork. Kind of cool setting. And then the A and the N, making this sort of floating island in the sky on the back. Cool photo. Love the way this is laid out. I love this. It doesn't have the track numbers, but it does have these numbers on the side, which makes it look like coordinates or something like that. I'm not sure what those numbers mean, but it's cool regardless. And the really awesome thing about this package, and it's going to be almost impossible for me to show you, but the real cool thing is that this part right here, I don't know if there's really no way I can demonstrate this to you. That is like a 3D, maybe if I this is, it's printed like a topographical map, and as I run my finger over it, I can feel it. Like this is a 3D image that sticks out above the page, and I can feel each of these individual nooks and crannies. You can kind of tell there as I zoom in on it. So that just is so cool. And so if we look in here, we've got, more photos of different things, kind of science fiction-y looking almost. The disc with the moon here, very cool. But on top of that, I also have the deluxe edition of the album, which was released after it blew up and became much more popular than it was when it was released. So this is a very cool, impressive, box set collection, I guess. 2 discs. One of them is identical disc to what's in here. So as we open this, you'll see the second disc, the new disc that's included in this, and then you'll see this one, which is identical to the release. This is just a plain flat image, but this is the same exact disc that's in there. And then in here we have this new disc, which is structured the same way, as you can tell, in terms of the art on the back, and they still have the numbers there. I still don't know what those mean, but it's very cool. And then the discs themselves have slightly different discs. This is kind of like out in outer space looking stuff. And then this is the same disc with the moon that was found in this package. Also in this package, we have an interesting choice for a photo to make into a little poster. Aaron Bruno performing live, and then all of the necessary album liner notes. And then we also have an AWOL Nation patch, and then this doodad, whatever this really is, which I believe this is a pop bottle opener of some sort, maybe a comb or something. I'm not sure what that's for. Ice scraper, whatever. Says AWOL Nation, but a very cool limited edition set that's nice to have. It makes this totally useless, but I love this, and you can't ever have too many copies of a great album. So that's that. Here we have something that's not a deluxe edition as far as I know, but is interesting still nonetheless. Here we have Mook's album, The End of the World, which you can see there. And this is cool for one reason. The reason I have this disc like this is not the actual cover of the album. The actual cover of the album is this. And I'm covering a profane word under here, which I don't like to have that sticking out front, so I just flip it over and there it is. But one really cool thing about this, when I opened it for the first time, boom, in the CD, here is a little guitar pick. Mook, The End of the World. Come on. Focus camera. There we go. Little guitar pick. Really cool. And then when I got the album, this was in here like this backwards. And then if we flip this around, you can see we have a little panel here. And I can rotate the disc in there. And you get the different words of the songs. On there. And it's just a cool little thing. Really neat addition to it. I don't like to put the album like that because I like to keep the pick in there and I don't want to scratch the disc with the pick. But just a really cool, interesting, different way to incorporate like a physical thing with the album. Like a cool interesting way to do that. I only have one other album that has that as a concept, and it's got a cover, a slipcase, and in the slipcase there's a wheel that you turn, and there's a little panel here, and there's a picture of a boy's face, and then like the quarter of his face is on a rotating wheel that you can rotate by spinning a wheel here, and it'll like get more like zombie looking as you spin it around. It's kind of cool, but neat little thing, I thought. Something I just wanted to show is out there. So now we have, here is the Deer Hunter, the color spectrum, which if you watched my video of my top 12 albums from 2011, you should remember that's when this album came out, and I was very undecided as to whether or not I should include it or not because it's a series of EPs, but I just wanted to show it again here because it's such a neat collection. I got to see the band live and got 2 of the guys to sign it. But this is just a collection, like I said in my last video, of 4 different discs, 9 EPs, if I remember correctly. Yep. So this is 9 separate EPs, 4 songs each representing one color on the color spectrum. Hence the name, the color spectrum. And so we have each of these different discs. And each disc, the art, the style of the discs are all the same. But you can see this is the disc for indigo, violet, and white. So remember how this disc looked. I'll keep it down there. And then we're going to pull this one out, and we have, aha! But you can guess, yellow, green, and blue. Because in the disc here we have yellow, green, and blue. So all the discs are like this with their 3 different colors per disc. This is a fantastic collection of fantastic music. And the booklet, very cool, goes through, talks about the creation of the process, talks about the process of creating the album, and then it breaks down each of the colors, and it discusses, why they did what for each color, and then it has lyrics and stuff in here too. So, very cool collection. And on top of that, on top of this version of the album, I also have the store release. So this is the same album, but it's just 1 track from each of the 9 EPs plus 2 from White, I believe, and 2 from Green. So it's a 12-track album. No, 11-track album. And it's the same songs, but just minus a bunch of songs. But you can tell by looking at this what it is. Cool. The artwork is very similar. It's you can tell it's the same project, basically. And then the booklet goes through and tells you some of the same stuff. There's less information in here, but it goes through and has some of the same images and things. Not as much description of what's happening, but very cool. This is a really neat project, and it's one that got me into the Deer Hunter. They're a very interesting band. So that's the color spectrum. Then we have, let's see here, we have Celldweller, End of an Empire, and this is the collector's edition that I bought off of their website. And this is cool for a few different reasons, but the main one is, boom! Look at how sweet that is, with creating an image using the spine of each of the discs. And as you can see, this is a good time, I guess, for me to maybe explain this. I primarily listen to CDs. When I'm listening to music, I listen to CDs. So I will carry my albums with me wherever I go. So there might be little bits of sign and wear and tear on them. Unlike most people, well, I shouldn't say that. I know a lot of people that I know tend to buy an album, take the CD, rip it in their computer, or take their CD and put it in a sleeve, a binder full of a bunch of CDs, and then they throw the artwork away or they never think about it again. Well, CDs are so important to me. Music is so important to my life. I want to keep everything nice and in order and in as clean as I can, but I also am not going to pamper the things because I want to take it with me and I want to listen to it wherever I happen to be and wherever I have access to a CD player, which is in most vehicles and wherever I take my portable CD player with me. But anyway, Celldweller here. Anyway, I bring that up because I don't know if you can even tell, but I've got some tape holding this box together because it just was falling apart, unfortunately. But still. So the artwork for this, very cool. This whole album is a really neat concept album about sort of a science fiction story. This is the actual release. If you were to purchase this album individually, it would look just like this. Got the tracks in here, disc there, booklet here. It's all this sort of graphic novel style artwork, and it all goes along with this story. And this is the deluxe edition, which comes with multiple bonus discs, including an instrumentals disc. And then we've got remixes, 2 discs of remixes. It's got the Factions disc, which is sort of the instrumental tracks that... The digital version of this is these 2 albums put together, and every track alternates. 1 track from here, 1 track from here, 1 track from here, 1 track from here. That's how the album is supposed to be listened to, but it's so long they couldn't fit it on 1 disc, so they made 1 disc separate with the Factions on it, which is just sort of instrumental things with intros for each of the songs. And then I didn't even realize I had this in here. I've got some Celldweller merchandise cards, and then different stuff from the Fix-It place. So that's cool. I didn't even realize that was in there. But this is just a cool, really neat concept and a really awesome thing for people who are like big fans of these artists. I love it when artists go the extra mile to make like a really cool package and a really cool product for someone to purchase that you can really appreciate. And this is just awesome. I mean, it just looks cool on my shelf. So now we're going to get into a couple of different interesting things. The first thing we're going to talk about is this album, Maximum Hormone Yoshu Fukushu, which I'm not sure if... I'm assuming that's what that says. It might say Maximum the Hormone, but anyway, I got to be careful with this because there's some images in here I would rather not have in the video. But this is really cool because what it is a book, essentially, that comes with this version of the album. I think this is the only version of the CD that they made, but this is one of the most expensive albums that I own. Very hard to get this. So we open it up and we got the disc, and I know the picture underneath here is one of the albums I don't want to show, but very cool art style here. Sort of almost cell-shaded looking, like they took a picture and then digitized it, made it look like a drawing. And then this is essentially a manga that goes with all of the different tracks on the album. So there's all sorts of really cool stuff on here. All sorts of different styles of art. Very cool looking things. And I think it has to do with the different members of the band, which is, they're an incredible band. But it's cool because there's different styles, art styles, different things in here. And I believe the song lyrics are in here too. It's all, I don't know if you can tell, but it's all in Japanese. Well, there's yeah, but I mean, they say yeah in the song, but it's all in Japanese. I do not speak a lick of Japanese, and I don't care to look up the lyrics because it doesn't really, I don't really care. Here's a really cool illustration, anime looking style. Again, just really neat. This one came with this little, I think it's a bookmark. Not sure what it says, but cool little thing. Bookmark, I just kind of leave it in there. I mean, by far the most... Whoops, that was the image I didn't want to show. So I'll have to blur that out. Anyway, very cool. Probably the coolest set of liner notes that I have ever seen in any album. But just really cool stuff. So speaking of really, really cool stuff, I have 2 more albums to talk about in this section. And so these are albums that had something extra come out with them. So the first one we're going to talk about here is Within Temptation's album, The Unforgiving. So this album came out, and you can look at the artwork here. and see, oh, it's cool, it looks like a graphic novel or something like that. Well, that's exactly what it is. This is a concept album that the band created with some illustrators and writers, and they created this whole story to go with this album. And the songs are amazing. First of all, that's the most important part about this. All the songs on here are great. But everything else surrounding the album is incredible too. You can see on here that this comes with a bonus disc that has movies and music. So it's got these different little short films, what they refer to as short films. They're music videos, but with a lot extra to it. And then we have a little prequel, which is a sort of a comic in digital comic. And then we got some credits and things. But as we slide this out, we have the disc here, the 2 discs. Very cool. The band photo. And then we've got the album here, which is very neat. It's a fold with another fold on the insides, and here we have the sort of red with the main character, and then if we go to the back, we unfold and we have the red with the forest on fire, and then the sort of blue demon guy. It's hard to tell with the with this lighting. I apologize for that. And then inside we have sort of concept, black and white concept with the red, keeping always with the red design of the text. So very cool. But not just that. We also have in here, we have a poster. And the poster, I know I'm not going to be able to fit in here. But it's just what you can imagine. A big version of the album cover. And then in here we have all the text from the album, the lyrics and everything. And you can see here that it's in a specific pattern in terms of what you're seeing. It's a neat package. But the reason even more important, or not important, what makes this even more impressive is along with this story and along with this package, I also purchased separately these. The actual set of graphic novels that accompanies this story. So the band got together with these people, all down here, and they released a series of graphic novels talking about the story that they created and what the songs are all based on, these characters and these specific stories and themes explored throughout these graphic novels. And it is such a cool combination of everything together. I've only ever experienced one other album that had like a set or a series of something connected with it, and we're going to talk about that in just a second because it also happened to come out this decade. But this is just so neat. And then along with each of these, let's see if I can find it. There's always a page in here explaining kind of what the band is and how the project came together. But then there's always a page in the middle somewhere that has a QR code that you can scan. It might not be in the first issue. Maybe they didn't have it ready. But there should be a page with a QR code that you can scan, that has videos, and it has different things. And I think, here, each one also has like an instrumental soundtrack to go along with it. So you can scan this QR code and listen to the soundtrack, the orchestral soundtrack to go along with the graphic novels, which also goes with the album. And so I just think that is such a cool collection, all based around this album. It wouldn't exist without this album, and it's just such a cool set. Now, along those very, very similar lines, but a lot more personal, we have this album. Light's album, Skin and Earth. Now, Lights is one of my absolute favorite artists, but as far as her whole discography goes, this album disappointed me the most out of any of her full-length albums because of its production. I didn't care for it that much. And I actually think one of the reasons that it doesn't have the best production might be because she was focusing so much on the other aspect of this album, which is, let's see if I want you to see the design on there. The other aspect of this album is the artwork again. There we have a graphic novel character. Oh, I didn't realize that's how... Oh, cool. So here we have the actual photo, and then boom, the graphic novel version of it. But, like I mentioned with the previous album, the Within Temptation album, these albums were created in tandem with this set of graphic novels. Now, all of this was done by Lights herself, and I believe she did all of the artwork as well for these. Oh, there, this is, that goes with that. But I've got the whole set here, and what's really cool about this is that there's six issues. I have issue 6 here, and I believe issue 4 here. And I believe, if I'm correct, there's 14 songs on this album, and each one of these graphic novels contains a certain number of chapters that correspond. Each chapter is one song. So I have this one out so we can give it a look. Just kind of different, very cool artwork. It's very impressive. I believe this is the first... Oh, that's an ad. This is the first thing she's ever done like this, and it is so impressive, so cool. Yeah, here's Chapter 4, Savage, obviously corresponding on here to Song 4, Savage. So just a very cool collection, just like the Within Temptation stuff. I'm so glad that I found these two specific albums with these graphic novel sets, and I have the sets and the album. It's such a cool collection to have, and something that I just think is just so neat. I'm so glad that even though everything is going digital nowadays, there's still people putting work and putting effort into packages as a whole. And so now we are going to talk about my 5 favorite album artwork / packages / whole releases in terms of the artwork of the decade. So number 5. We have this album. The Devastated is the name of the band, and the album is called Devil's Messenger. And this is just cool because it's such an amazing piece of art. And I don't know if the piece of art was created for this album or if it's something that they found online, loved, and decided that they were going to incorporate it into their album. But it's still really cool, graphic design, really cool, like custom done artwork. All aspects of this are awesome. You open it up, this should be played loud. That's awesome. I love that. That's cool. Tongue-in-cheek is great, especially if you make music like these guys do. There is not a clean vocal to be had on this whole album. But when you take this and you study it a little bit more, you're like, what is this? You could look at that forever. Like, what is this crazy thing? Well, when you take it and you open it up, it becomes this incredible, very detailed piece of artwork that is just amazing. It's crazy. It's science fiction. It's gross. It's metal. It's all sorts of different things all rolled into one, and it is just cool. It's crazy. It's best not to look at it too long, I find, but it's just neat. It's black and white. There's color up here. The other side is just the album information, the liner notes, but it's all about this guy. Such a cool, impressive design, and having just the part that you see if you were to see this in a store just be this is just cool. Also, as a side note, I love it when when album graphic designers or whoever is doing the album layout utilizes this little space inside here. I just love that. So that's my number 5, The Devastated's debut and only album, Devil's Messenger. Here we have something cool. Very simple, though. Different from everything else on my top 5 list here. This is an album from the Black Keys. The name of this album is Brothers. So there's a few really cool things with this album that I just love. One is the sort of snarkiness of every aspect of this. Their album before this that they had released, well, Dan Auerbach had released a solo album before this, and I remember reading in an article that they did with some magazine or something online, they were saying that people were frustrated because they thought that the last album was a Black Keys album, even though it just said Dan Auerbach on the front, and they were disappointed when they heard the songs and thought it was Black Keys, and it wasn't. And anyway, people were, whatever, being people. And so the Black Keys were like, we're going to be snarky. So we have this as an album from the Black Keys. The name of this album is Brothers. We flip it over. These are the guys in the band. These are the names of the songs on this album. There's the names of the songs. Awesome. I love the snarkiness of it. I absolutely love it. And if we zoom out here, and we go here, we have Brothers, the title of the album. And this, you can tell here, this is a Black Keys poster. I love it. And these are the lyrics. I love how snarky it is. And on top of all that, if that wasn't enough for you, I bet a lot of people that have this album don't even know this. This is a hugely popular CD that very influential in my life. A lot of people don't really know this secret, though. So you look at the disc here, and you can tell... Hold on, I gotta find a... You can tell that there's some info kind of written on it, and you look at it and you're like, oh, that's really cool. They're being all nice and artsy-fartsy, having it so that it's hard to read. Well, watch this. I have here a blow dryer, and watch what's going to happen to the album. So, as you can see, and how badass this is, this disc is meant to be put in your CD player. It spins around, plays the album, and when you take it out, it is a different color than when you put it in. How absolutely amazing is that? And as we sit here and have it cool off, you can see it's already starting to go back to mostly being black. How cool is that? That's so awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'll bet you, like I said, a lot of people that bought this album don't even know that that does that. How cool is that? So that's my number 4, the Black Keys Brothers. Now, my number 3, we have Kaiser's Orchestra. And the album that I'm going to call my number 3 is this, Violetta Violetta Volume 1. However, we have Volume 2 and Volume 3. So, of these 3, my favorite is Violetta Violetta Volume 1. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about in terms of my favorite artwork. And that's what makes it number 3. However, we are going to spend some time to talk about how amazing this artwork is. This artist is so cool. He has done so many cool things related in this style. Well, hold on. I guess let's talk about it a little bit here. So let's talk about each of these a little bit. The format is the same on all 3 of these, which is, if you make a series of albums and they are released separately, but they're in a series, make the artwork consistent. I hate it when bands don't do that. But the artwork here is consistent. Look at the spines. Everything lines up. Everything is nice. The colors change, but that's fine. That's the point of it. It has volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. Everything is uniform. And you look at the designs on the front, it's all structured out the same. On the back, they're all structured out the same. Oh, I love these albums so much. So if we look here, open it up, the disc is gorgeous. It's going to be kind of tough to tell, but this is a whitish sort of cream color, and this is actually sort of like a brownish purple. It's hard to tell, but it's a brownish purple, all matte. And as I run my hand over this, I can kind of feel that it's not necessarily 3D like that AWOL Nation thing, but I can feel that it was printed on there nicely. It's got all the relevant information. It's got the sort of design aesthetic of the front, and it's got the volume 1 up here, just like it does on the front, volume 1. Kaiser's Orchestra at the bottom. Got a little baby carriage there in the center. Incredible. So then we take that out, and we got a chandelier under there. Over here we have a tree, which you can see the tree back here. But here we have more. We have the tree and a little girl watering. Little phrase here. Crows, birds. Crows, birds. We have flowers. We have the flower. We have, and it's kind of tough to tell, but we have a little devil figure here and a little angel looking kind of figure here. We have the plants, different things like that, all incorporated on the back as well. The flower, the flowers. We have some birds. It's all very theatrical, sort of. Then we take the book out, and let me tell you, the book feels good in my hands. It's the perfect type of paper for this. All matte, not glossy at all. And then we just have more incredible artwork. And you'll notice here under each song, these 3 albums are a concept album. They're telling a story. And these paragraphs here, underneath the lyrics for each song, are telling what's happening in the story for those songs and what's happening as the story moves along. So we have just collage style art. We have the parchment-y looking distressed paper. Abstract, just very cool. There's Frankenstein, the black cat, which is right over here in the corner. Just impressive on every level. I love everything about this. And then the fact that I get 3 of these. Oh. So here we have, here's the first one. And you can see the format, everything. And then boom, there's the second one. Already you can tell it's darker. There's a skull more prominent. You have a man here, and he's holding, what is it? Some sort of like a bat. Oh man, it's just cool. Now we have lots of pointy spikes. The flowers are gone. We've got smoke coming out of a building I believe is burning. There's the volume 2. And we have, again, there's the logo, basically. The devil and the... Oh, it's just so cool. Then on the back we have this sort of continuation of the thorns and stuff and the prickles. It's the same general design here with different aspects to it. So incredible. Open it up. This disc. Now this is cool. This disc, while the other one was matte, this one is more shiny. And it's the sort of brown color from the first album, but it's the more prominent color with the white on the inside. Very cool. Here we have a butterfly and a bee kind of mixed together. This, the same kind of package. Again, you can tell right off the bat that it's a little bit darker. Same kind of distressed paperwork. Collage style, different artwork. Graveyard. Just the coolest. Just the absolute coolest. Same artist that did everything for all of these albums, and the layout and everything is all the same person. So this one, the beginning of the story. This one, more of the tragic, darker side. And then we have the gaudy gold, the sort of gold leaf. The red flower comes back into play. We have the woman back. We have the same design. We have the little, we have the devil character, the angel character. We have a bunny instead of a cat, giving it more of like an Alice in Wonderland feeling to it. Then on the back we have, again, the same thing. You can see these poles and stuff here that are in all three of these. They continue here. It's amazing. The art style is incredible. We open it up. The disc looks gold. It's not brown. This is gold. And it's shiny, and it's the same style of disc. The booklet itself, when we get to it, and if we look here, all the gold here is like shiny gold leaf. It's what it looks like. And if you don't know what gold leaf is, look it up. It's very interesting. Same thing, gold, red. The same layout. All three of these have the story continuing on the bottom of each page. The red is a very important color in this third one. And it's cool because it's all represents the music. It all is represented by the music. Because the third album, they knew was going to be their last album before calling it quits as a band, at least for now, for the last decade about. And they knew that this album was going to be special. It was going to have a whole orchestra in it. Kaiser's Orchestra is kind of a misleading name. They do not use an orchestra in most of their music. They're kind of just an alternative rock band with sort of like polka-y European influences, all in Norwegian. But this album, their first album, is a little bit more happy sounding, and their second album gets a little bit darker, you can tell. And their third album is over the top, bombastic, full orchestra, almost gaudy in nature, and I mean, one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. But just the way the artwork represents the music, the way they all work together, the way that it just is the perfect combination of artwork. It just is so cool. And so that's why Kaiser's Orchestra, specifically Violetta Violetta Volume 1, which is my favorite of the trilogy in terms of art, that's why it's my number 3. Number 2, I want to talk about Volbeat for a second. Because we've got 3 Volbeat albums here, and I know I'm cheating here showing you 3, but Volbeat is such a cool art style with all their stuff. Everything they've ever released has this sort of yellowy, brownish, greenish tint to it, and it all has this style of graphic novel, this sort of design. I believe the same guy has done all their stuff, whether it's, the artwork inside, the CDs themselves, everything is this sort of style of graphic design art, and it's all cool. And they released these 3 albums this decade, which is why I have it here. But this album, Beyond Heaven, Above Hell, very cool album. Then they released Outlaw Gentlemen and Shady Ladies, and I want to take a second to look at this here. So the graphic design style went away from being, it's still the same color palette, but he added the grays and sort of like almost unfinished painting look to everything. And the discs are so cool. Here, I'll show you this first. Here we have the Outlaw Gentleman and Shady Lady. So here's the Outlaw Gentleman, here's the Shady Lady. And as you go through, there's a sort of a picture, and the picture represents what the songs are talking about, So this is a picture of Lola Montez with her spiders, and we got all sorts of different things happening as we go through here. Very cool the way that they connect the art to the songs. And the discs for this set look really cool. Hopefully you can tell. This one's got it's matte here, but then the dark black here is shiny. Of the Gentleman. And then we've got the Shady Lady on the back here. So cool. Even cooler than that, though, is their most recent album. Well, I guess that's not true. They had an album come out last year that I didn't care for as much. But anyway, this is, in my opinion, their best album, Seal the Deal and Let's Boogie. This is such a cool album cover. It's throwback, the mustache, this sort of sailor's tattoo, so cool. All these characters back here, spoiler alert, they're the characters based on the songs. And as we unfold this bad boy here, you'll see that this album cover is even more. We have more characters that are involved. We have more of the ring. This is like some sort of unsanctioned fighting. It's just so cool. The cool artwork continues on the inside. The disc is the same kind of disc as before. It's got this shiny. We have the disc here it's laid out very similar. We have some more colors for the first time, though. It's laid out similarly to the way the last one was, where they've got the characters with the songs that they kind of represent and are based off of. It just is so cool. Overall, this is maybe my favorite artwork that was ever created for an album. It's just, there's something just so cool about it. It almost has like a Watchmen vibe to it. It's just cool. Just straight up cool. But that's my number 2. So my number 1, Jin Wigmore's album, Ivory. And I actually have 2 copies of this. Doesn't matter at all, but I lost one of the CDs, and so I had to buy another copy of it. So let's look at the CD. Plain white. Remember, a while ago I showed you another Jin Wigmore album. That was the picture of the girl with the hands on her face with the black cover. So this is a white cover. It goes nicely with that. But we've got some incredible artwork. This is my favorite piece of art, I think, single piece that's been made for an album. I love this because it's creepy and it's unsettling and it's gross and she's not perfect and it just is cool. And if you look here, there's like worms and there's all sorts of gross things that make this piece of art up, and it's just so cool. And let me zoom out over a little bit. The back has a really cool piece of art as well. A dog made out of... Now you'll notice it's just... You think it's a dog. The teeth kind of make it look like a dog. Everything makes it look like a dog, but it's just individual pieces in the shape of a dog. And it's so detailed. So detailed. It's so rewarding looking at this. And the song titles are not back here. So they chose to make this artistic rather than practical. And I like that. Just very plain here. Kind of a collage looking thing. And then when you take this out, you guessed it by looking at this, we got a big poster. Just cool. Song liner notes here. Album liner notes there. So this is my number 1 of the decade because it looks cool and it's just such a cool design. Cool. I've said cool a million times and I'm sure you hate me for it, but it's just a very intriguing and interesting design. And while I would say that I do like the Volbeat one as a package more, overall, this is just my favorite album cover for sure. And I just like the way that it looks. I think it's very cool and artistic. And I think that it deserves to be my number 1. I think that it's a close second, and then obviously the Kaiser's Orchestra stuff is amazing. And the Black Keys disc, which is now black again, so cool. But so, reiterate. Number 5, Devastated. Number 4, Black Keys. Number 3, Kaiser's Orchestra Violetta Violetta Volume 1. Number 2, Volbeat, Seal the Deal and Let's Boogie. Also one of the sweetest titles album titles of all time. And then number 1, Jin Wigmore. So thank you very much for watching this. I'm gonna have more videos coming out. Some stuff like this, though not dealing with the art. Some stuff not at all like this. But I hope that you appreciate it, and I hope we have another great decade of music ahead of us.